The eccentric waves of national politics continues as the three-party top brass Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal, UML Chair Oli and NC Chief Deuba have come together one more time to settle the disputes pertaining to the obstacles seen at the Parliament. The last time when the Parliament proceedings were disputed, in fact disrupted, over allegations made against the UML chair in the Golden Jalhari case, the three top-notch leaders had come together in a similar vein to settle the embargo. The politics of consensus is always welcome in democracy. However, clandestine meeting to settle every dispute might not augur well for the future of democracy. Good morning, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. The main opposition, CPN-UML, continues parliament obstruction despite deal between top three leaders. Meeting of the National Assembly postponed until tomorrow. The loan shark victims stage a protest in the capital yet again, raise voice against the government's lack of support. US President Joe Biden began his three-nation Europe trip after arriving in London on Sunday, set to meet British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and King Charles ahead of NATO meeting. And Iga Swiatek and Ukraine's Elena Svitolina booked their place in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Andrei Rublev reaches Wimbledon quarterfinal with a 5-set winner over Alexander Bublik. The meeting of the House of Representatives has remained uncertain until today due to obstruction by the main opposition, CPN-UML. Meanwhile, the meeting of the National Assembly has been postponed until tomorrow. The Parliament has remained obstructed for a week due to political agendas of the ruling and the opposition parties. Parliament proceedings have been halted amid obstructions by the main opposition, CPN-UML, saying that the Prime Minister had given remarks against a national interest. The meeting of the National Assembly, which was earlier scheduled for 11 a.m. earlier today, has been postponed until tomorrow, citing special reasons. Discussions on the bills related to budget at the National Assembly have also remained subdued. Meanwhile, the meeting of the House of Representatives have been scheduled for 3 p.m. today. Senior leaders of the three major political parties had reached a consensus to resume parliament proceedings. However, the agreement was breached before they reached the parliament building in capital's New Baneswar. Secretary at the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Krishna Bahadur Raut, has been arrested in the Lalita Niwas Landscan. The Central Investigation Bureau of Nepal Police, CIB, nabbed Secretary Raut, former chief of Samarjung Company Lokhari Khimire, and land survey official Dhruva Prasad Aryal in the latest arrest made in connection with the Lalita Niwas land scam in Balwatar. It has been learnt that Raut was about to board a flight from Kathmandu to Biratnagar when he was arrested from the domestic terminal of the Trivandrum International Airport. The government in the year 2009 had started the process of acquiring 27 ropenis of Lalita Niwas land, citing its use to expand the residence of top-level government officials. Madhav Kumar Nepal was the then Prime Minister, while Bijay Kumar Gakshadar served as the Minister for Physical Infrastructure, while Chabiraj Panta was the Secretary for Land Reforms. The CIB so far has arrested 12 individuals in connection with the case. It is estimated that the Lalita Niwas land scam was conducted in 4 phases since 1992. Victims of loan sharks have once again arrived in Kathmandu to protest against the ordinance regarding loan sharks being defunct. The ordinance was defunct after the main opposition, CPN-UML, obstructed the parliament on the day the ordinance was scheduled to be endorsed. Victims of loan sharks from various districts had arrived in Kathmandu on foot to demand for justice in March. After the government provided assurances in written form that their problems would be addressed by forming laws, they returned home. The victims of loan sharks have once again arrived in the capital with the same issue. Considering loan sharking as a crime, the government introduced a law through an ordinance. However, the ordinance became defunct as it was not endorsed through the parliament within 60 days of the House session. Around 400 loan shark victims from Dhanusha, Mahottari, Saptari, Siraha, Sarlahi, among other districts, have arrived in Kathmandu this time. The victims have criticized the government of trying to endorse the ordinance from the parliament only at the 11th hour. They have complained that the political parties have compelled them to come to Kathmandu once again to protest amid the farming season. They have said that they came in small numbers this time due to the plantation season. Though through the recommendation of the cabinet, President Ramchandra Paudel had issued the ordinance regarding loan sharks on 3rd of May earlier this year, which was not endorsed. Meanwhile, the government is preparing to move forward the ordinance regarding loan sharks once again. Complaints have been filed from 67 districts at the commission related to illegal transactions. The commission says that it has received around 24,000 complaints from across the country. Mayor of the Kathmandu metropolis, Balendra Shah, has expressed dissatisfaction over having to frequent the court. Mayor Shah, through digital platform Facebook, expressed dissatisfaction for having to frequent the court for opposing cultural interference by neighboring India. Mayor Shah expressed discontent, citing Premier Dahal's remarks indicating India's involvement in national politics was acceptable. Shah had opposed Bollywood movie Adipurush, which included a dialogue stating that Sita, a revered figure in Hindu mythology, was born in India. The Kathmandu mayor had banned the movie in all the theatres within the metropolis. However, the Patan High Court had issued an interim order to allow the movie to be aired. A case was filed at the court against Shah for banning the movie. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces what should be done to manage Ayurvedic health institutions. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
मिसिनहरु चाहियो, औजारहरु चाहियो, राम्रा डाक्टरहरु चाहियो।
सम्बन्धित सरकारहरुले स्थानीय जडीबुटीहरुलाई पहिचान गर्न जरुरी छ।
यसमा सरकारले जनशक्ति व्यवस्थापन गर्नुपर्छ।
बजेटहरु बढाएर सेवाग्राहीहरुले खोजेको सेवाहरु प्राप्त गर्ने खालको वातावरण चाहिँ निर्माण गर्नुपर्छ।
दक्ष जनशक्ति, दक्ष डाक्टर, दक्ष हस्पिटल खोलेर
प्रचारमा बढी ध्यान दिनुपर्छ।
यो स्वास्थ्यलाई व्यवस्थित गर्न अब समय अनुकूल परिवर्तन हुँदै जान पर्छ।
राज्यले पूर्वाधारमा लगानी गर्नुपर्छ।
डाक्टर राख्नु पर्यो, ल्याब दिन पर्यो, निशुल्क औषधि दिन पर्यो।
यसको लागि प्रमुख कुरा भनेको चाहिँ जनचेतना हो। जनचेतना फैलिनु एकदमै जरुरी छ।
स्थानीय पालिकाहरूले नै यसको लागि चाहिँ पहल गर्यो भने सबैभन्दा राम्रो हुन्छ।
यसलाई प्रचार प्रसार अलिकति तीव्र रूपमा जनमानसमा पुर्याउन सक्नुपर्छ।
Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question: what could be the reason for the loan shark victims repeatedly coming to Kathmandu? Your options are A, parties' apathy, B, weakness of the government, and C, agreement not implemented. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. US President Joe Biden is set to meet with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and King Charles. In separate comments on Sunday, he said that Ukraine was not ready for NATO membership. US President Joe Biden began his three-nation Euro trip after arriving in London on Sunday. He is set to meet with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at 10 Downing Street on Monday, after which he will visit King Charles at Windsor Castle. The talks with King Charles are expected to include climate initiatives. On Monday night, Biden will travel to Lithuanian capital Vilnius ahead of talks with NATO leaders slated for June 11 and 12. Expected to be on the agenda are NATO's support for Kyiv as well as Sweden's bid to join the alliance, which has so far been blocked by Turkey. After his trip to Lithuania, Biden will head to Finland, which is the newest member of the NATO alliance. The president, meanwhile, had cast doubt on the likelihood of Ukraine being offered a NATO membership. Biden said that while he hoped that NATO leaders would lay out a rational path for Ukraine to be able to qualify, to be able to get into NATO, he said that in order to join the military alliance, countries must meet all the qualifications from democratization to a whole range of other issues. He added that bringing Ukraine into the alliance now would mean war with Russia. Tunisia's president has rejected criticism of his government's treatment of black African refugees after hundreds were rounded up by authorities and left on the border with Libya. President Kais Saied said on Sunday the refugees were receiving humane treatment stemming from what he called our values. Refugees, however, say they have been left to tackle the desert heat with little food or water. Tunisia, which is a major migration route to Europe, has come under criticism from rights groups after authorities rounded up refugees and asylum seekers and expelled them to a remote buffer zone at Tunisia's border with Libya. It accused unnamed foreign powers of seeking a new type of settlement for refugees and spreading lies about Tunisia. Earlier this week, Human Rights Watch (HRW) said Tunisian security forces had collectively expelled several hundred African refugees and asylum seekers. The group urged Tunisia to halt forced removals of sub-Saharan Africans and urgently enable access to humanitarian services for those sent to the dangerous border area. Earlier this month, a Tunisian man was stabbed to death in clashes between refugees and residents of the Tunisian coastal city of Sfax, a key launch pad for asylum seekers heading to Italy. Meanwhile, on Sunday, at least 10 Tunisians were reported missing and one dead after their boat sank off Tunisia as they tried to cross the Mediterranean to Italy. Thousands of Haitians took to the streets of Port-au-Prince on yesterday to call for an end to criminal gang violence and the humanitarian crisis ravaging the Caribbean nation. The Relief for Haiti March was called by the pastor of the Tabernacle of Glory Church, Gregory Toussaint, and also took place in Canada, the United States and France. Heavily armed gangs have expanded their turf and now control communities, accounting for some 2 million people according to UN. Estimates mostly women and children who face extrajudicial killings and sexual violence on a daily basis. This has fueled a humanitarian crisis the agency believes has internally displaced over 165,000 people. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said yesterday that he has asked the Food and Drug Administration to look into the energy drink Prime, which he said is targeted at young people and has dangerously high levels of caffeine. Prime has more than double the amount of caffeine than the popular energy drink Red Bull, Schumer said. The drink is endorsed by YouTube star Logan Paul. Representatives of Prime did not respond to a request for a comment. Prime energy drink contains 200 milligrams of caffeine per 12 ounces, equal to 6 cans of Coca-Cola or nearly 2 Red Bulls. According to a warning on the company's website, Prime Energy is not recommended for children under the age of 18, women who are pregnant or nursing, or individuals who are sensitive to caffeine. Prime also sells a non-caffeinated hydration drink in similar packaging. Schumer said the packaging and marketing of the two drinks were so similar that parents were unknowingly buying the highly caffeinated energy drinks for their children. Argentina inaugurated yesterday the first stage of a gas pipeline that will carry natural gas from the Vaca Muerta formation in western Argentina to Santa Fe province by way of Buenos Aires province in essential work to reverse the country's significant energy deficit. Vaca Muerta, a massive shale formation the size of Belgium located in Patagonia, is seen as key to boosting the South American country's gas supplies and lessening the need for pricey imports. The completion of the first stage of the gas pipeline, which starts in Neuquén province and reaches Buenos Aires province, adds 11 million cubic meters of gas per day. With the new pipeline up and running, the country expects to reach a net zero in its energy balance in 2024 and achieve a surplus in 2025, according to official estimates. Hours of thunderstorms yesterday in the lower Hudson River Valley left highways and houses flooded in Rockland, Putnam, and Orange counties in New York. Local television outlets reported almost 1 foot of rain fell in the area north of New York City, with WABC saying there were reports of cars being swept away in the rain. Police closed roads and issued a rare flash flood emergency, telling residents to move to higher ground and avoid travel, local media reported. Time now for sports update.
Sports news.
It turned out to be the mother of all battles, and Victoria Azarenka produced some telling blows in an electrifying contest, but in the end she lacked self-confidence to prevent Elina Svitolina from securing a place in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Sunday's 2-6, 6-4, 7-6 win handed the Ukrainian wildcard a first victory over Azarenka, the duo being the last two mums left standing out of the six, who started in the singles draw as she snapped a 5-match losing run against the Belarusian. After soaking up all the tension for close to 3 hours, world number 76, Svitolina finally toppled 19th seed Azarenka with an ace on her second match point and promptly collapsed onto her back in her moment of triumph. She will next face world number 1 Iga Swiatek in the quarterfinals after the Poles survived a huge scare against Switzerland's Olympic champion Belinda Bencic, saving 2 match points in the second set before clawing out a 6-7, 7-6, 6-3 victory. Andrei Rublev reaching the quarterfinals is one of the most predictable outcomes at a Grand Slam, but there was nothing remotely routine about his 5-set win over Alexander Bublik, his 4th-round opponent at Wimbledon on Sunday. Rublev, who has now reached the quarters 8 times at the Grand Slams but has never made the last 4, was seemingly cruising into the last 8 when he took the first 2 sets on center court. Yet his Kazakh opponent somehow conjured a way back into the contest and ensured it went the distance before 7th seed Rublev wrapped up a 7-5, 6-3, 6-7, 6-7, 6-4 victory. Grigor Dimitrov dispatched American 10th seed Francis Tiafoe in straight sets with a convincing 6-2, 6-3, 6-2 victory to move into the 4th round of Wimbledon, where he will meet Danish 6th seed Holger Rune. Wales were beaten 2-0 by USA in their friendly in San Jose as Trinity Rodman's late doubles secured victory for the world champions and World Cup favourites. Gemma Gringer's side threatened to claim a famous draw as they frustrated the Americans for long spells. But Rodman struck twice in 11 minutes to give USA a deserved victory. This was a 9th straight USA win as they prepare to defend the World Cup in Australia and in New Zealand. But their pre-tournament send-off game was not as comfortable as many had anticipated it might be. Wales were missing some key players, including captain Sophie Ingle and Jess Fishlock, who was ruled out through injury, yet they emerged with considerable credit following a determined defensive display. Paris Saint-Germain have signed defender Lucas Hernandez from Bayern Munich on a 5-year deal, the Ligue 1 champions said on Sunday. The transfer fee has not been disclosed, but French media reported that PSG had paid Bayern a fee of 40 million euros plus add-ons for the 27-year-old. The France international made 107 appearances for the German league champions since his arrival in 2019, but played only 7 league games last season after suffering a cruciate ligament rupture injury at the World Cup that kept him sidelined for the remainder of the season. Hernandez, PSG's fifth new signing, joins midfielders Manuel Ugarte and Lee Kang-in, central defender Milan Skriniar and forward Marco Asensio. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. The main opposition, CPN-UML, continues parliament obstruction despite deal between top 3 leaders. Meeting of the National Assembly postponed until tomorrow. The loan shark victims stage a protest in the capital yet again, raise voices against the government's lack of support. US President Joe Biden began his 3-nation Europe trip after arriving in London on Sunday, set to meet British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and King Charles ahead of NATO meeting. And Iga Swiatek and Ukraine's Elena Svitolina booked their place in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Andrei Rublev reaches Wimbledon quarterfinal with a 5-set win over Alexander Bublik. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Good day.